A new study from Gallup shows 1 in 5 U.S. adults say they want to leave the U.S. permanently, and that number doubles among young women.
That's part of a decade-long trend of young women increasingly expressing their desire to migrate out of the country. Check out these numbers. About 40% of US women between ages of 15 and 44 say they would like to permanently move to another country, down 4 points from the all-time high last year, but quadrupled since 2014. Compare that to men of the same age, where only 19% say that they want to permanently leave. That 21-point gap between men and women is the widest it has been since Gallup began tracking those numbers back in 2007.
The reason behind their desire to move? Well, unsurprisingly, politics is likely to play a role. There's a 25-point gap in the desire to move between Americans who approve and disapprove of the current leadership. Only 4% of those who approve of U.S. leadership say that they would like to move, but among those who disapprove, nearly 30% said they would like to leave the U.S. As for where they want to go, the Great White North tops the list with 11% saying Canada is their preferred destination. Runner-ups are New Zealand, Italy, and Japan, all sitting at about 5%.
Can't believe Ireland and the UK didn't score
I
more
know,
highly.
what a shame.
Very sad about that. So I guess the seriousness here, or the serious point, is this increasing gender gap in political affiliations between young men and young women. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, I was going to make the same point. I mean, we increasingly see among Gen Z and Gen Alpha that young women are increasingly very liberal and young men are becoming more conservative. And this is also coupled with the fact that people are not getting married, they're not dating, they're not having relations, we could say.
Very euphemistic for morning TV.
Exactly. And we also have what many people have described as a birth crisis, so a fertility crisis, rather. So I'm very concerned about what this means for the future of the country, really. I mean, from a political division standpoint, from a standpoint of people starting families and having kids, I don't know how this gets rectified. I really don't.
Right. Well, it's interesting to me because obviously, you know, I often have been asked about or talked about the fact that young men seem increasingly conservative, as you just noted, and there's all sorts of theories around that in terms of the sort of social media ecosystem, or young men feeling alienated or isolated or marginalized in society, or maybe feeling that certain liberal mores disadvantage them in some ways. As a conservative woman, to what do you ascribe the liberal movement of women?
Yeah, so I have a theory about this.
Okay.
I'm curious what you're going to think about it. So, and other people have said this, I'm not the only one. Helen Andrews sort of broke down a part of it, which is on the men front, which is the idea that institutions have become increasingly feminized, which has left men feeling scapegoated and alienated, and so they kind of react to that by embracing more right-wing views. On the female side, Allie Beth Stuckey wrote a really great book about toxic empathy, she calls it, and it's sort of this phenomenon where when you are married, and this is a really important point because we see that the real political gap among women is between married women and unmarried women. I think when you get married, you tend to prioritize your immediate family, right? Your kids, your husband, all the people around you. When you're unmarried, I think those sort of intrinsic traits that are decidedly feminine, things like empathy and compassion, get exported to other people. And so I think young women who are unmarried are very susceptible to the liberal idea that you need to have an extra amount of compassion for people who would typically be considered aggressors. So things like criminals or illegal aliens. And so I think that's why they're more open to the idea of, you know, open borders, criminal justice reform, things of that nature, because it's viewed as being empathetic or compassionate.
This is interesting, and we're about to run out of time, and so
I
guess it's one of our 20-minute one. All I would say about that is empathy, firstly, I believe in empathy. I think empathy is a good value or a good characteristic to have, and I think empathy, where it applies in the liberal sense, is more about historically marginalized groups.
Sure, and that's another element of it, definitely.
Than it is about criminals or people who are unauthorized migrants. Anyway, up next, the debate over H-1B visas continues, and new data suggests that the Trump administration is bringing in more foreign workers than ever. Stick around for that.